Hey there, welcome to Cities Skylines II. Thanks for joining me today, and we're going to be starting a new city. We're on this beautiful kind of lowland, marshy map. This is off of Paradox Mods by a creator named Nitrouse. Name of the map is Piscataquag Bay. I highly recommend it. It's not got that many downloads, but it's a very well made map and very good for this kind of marshy, kind of lowland vibe that I'm going for a Louisiana themed build. So, very happy with it, and think it definitely deserves more downloads than it currently has. See, there weren't that many Louisiana themed maps available on PDX mods, or really kind of swampy, marshy maps in general, and I completely understand why most people don't want a map with kind of lowland topography. People want the variation in height to provide more interest in their city and layout, and that is a concern for me as I am preparing to create a city on what is essentially a flat plain, but I think we're going to do fine. I think that the waterways are going to give us plenty of variation in how we lay out our city, and we're going to take inspiration from how cities in Louisiana have been laid out over the years, as they've also been shaped by the waterways and by things like the riparian land system and other systems in Louisiana that have created a land use that's a little more unique looking than a lot of other North American cities. So we're going to be trying to emulate a lot of that today, as well as a lot of the other kind of more iconic Louisiana urban environments. So we're going to be looking to build a Vieux Carre, French Quarter kind of area, like everyone would expect to see in a Louisiana themed build. We're going to be looking to build huge elevated swamp expressways like you see in southern Louisiana. Just massive bridges that go on for miles and miles and miles over lowland and waterways. We're going to be doing some of that. We're going to be creating levee systems around our neighborhoods and our cities. We're going to be creating extremely large oil refineries that go on for miles and miles and miles. We're going to be creating casinos, racetracks, and other entertainment areas that Louisiana is all too known for. So we've got a lot to look forward to, and I'll just be documenting this process as I go along, and if you'd like to follow along, feel free. I am playing a somewhat modded game. As you can see, I've got a few mods that I'll put in the description below, as well as some assets. Nothing crazy, just some things that I think are going to really enhance both the playability of the build as well as the realism of the build in terms of assets. So I've got some really beautiful assets from Paradox Mods. I think the game is finally in a state with modding and assets that I can feel confident about a build like this, and I can really do it justice and create something that really reminds me of Louisiana. So we're going to be beginning on this parcel here. We've got this kind of lowland, kind of swampy area in between this small lake here, this inlet, and this bay. And don't believe I can currently view it because I don't have it unlocked, but I do believe that there is a seaway that comes up through here. So we should be able to get a port in here at some point, but that's a little ahead of ourselves right now. So we're going to begin here. We're just going to plat out a basic kind of grid town, as that's what a lot of the original Louisiana municipalities were based on, a small grid. If you look at the original plats of places like Natchitoches, Opelousas, Shreveport, New Orleans itself as well, these are the kinds of places that we're looking to emulate right now. A tight grid with a central courthouse or city center kind of government place of authority. And many of these courthouses and many of these towns are actually quite beautiful, so this is going to be a bit of a centerpiece of the town that's accompanied by a courtyard, some park space, and some public space for people to really come out and enjoy. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started building, and then we'll get back with you. So we're going to begin just by upgrading these. Actually, I'm just going to replace these because I want to make sure that I get the snapping and everything correct. I don't want anything to be off. The snapping in this game can be pretty finicky and difficult to use, so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that it's not. And actually, I think I'm just going to go ahead and go for a 4-lane road here right off the center if it allows me. And I am, like I said, using some mods, so we're going to be using Anarchy here as we need. Let's make sure, let's get rid of that node, and we'll go ahead and redraw this, make sure we get it correct. 3-lane. Don't have access to the highway, unfortunately, but this will do for now. It's a little lopsided, but we will make it work. As you can see, we're also using the Write Everywhere Street Names mod. We're going to be using the blue street signs for this, as that's what you commonly see across a lot of southern and central Louisiana. You also see, you know, the typical green and white signs as well, but just as a little homage to some of the towns and cities in southern Louisiana, we're going to be using blue signs. So at this point, I'm thinking of how I want to plan this out for future use. We're going to have the original town plat in this original parcel here. However, I do eventually want a larger kind of city center area on this island here, and I can envision a really beautiful bridge over this stretch of land right here. And so in order to kind of future-proof that and plan for that, we're going to have another thoroughfare that comes up here and is likely going to turn up this way to connect up to whatever we eventually put up here, which will probably end up being some kind of highway infrastructure if I had to guess. So what that means for now is we're going to take our 4-lane road, we're going to stretch that all the way along to there. That gets a little bit close to this water's edge here, which, you know, would cause problems obviously, but I think that's just going to provide us an opportunity to create some interesting levee systems here in the future. So we're going to reserve some thoroughfare here for what's eventually going to be a pretty major road into the city. Might actually end up eventually being a controlled access highway, depending on how large everything gets. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. I do have this road builder suburban wide 2-lane road. I don't unfortunately have it unlocked quite yet. We'll use these once we get them unlocked, but this is a 2-lane road that has the width of the vanilla 4-lane road. And this is a really good and easy way to kind of preserve right-of-way for future road upgrades if you already know that a road is going to be upgraded in the future. Saves you from having to destroy whatever you build on a road or shuffle everything back or use MoveIt or do anything else in the future. So if you have Road Builder, I highly recommend making something like this a 2-lane road that's the same width as the 4-lane road. But since we don't have that unlocked, we'll reserve a little right-of-way here, find a good spot for it. And we want to make sure that we attach it to what is going to be the actual city grid before we send it upwards. So we're going to come off the grid to make sure that we get that angle correct. I'll go about to there. We'll do a slight curve into our right-of-way. So eventually, we'll have this road continue onwards. We'll give it a small little cul-de-sac now so people can more easily turn around right there, and so that we know that this is eventually going to continue. But eventually I imagine a very beautiful kind of expressway carriageway across this, just a really Louisiana-style bridge, something like the Huey Long Expressway, if you're familiar with that one. Or something like the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge, maybe. Something that looks very gritty, very industrial, that is very heavily trafficked. So that's something to look forward to. But in the meantime, we're going to continue planning out our town here. So we do have some slight variation in topography right here. This is an area that in Louisiana you'd likely not see very much built on. There's a big problem, especially in modern days, with insurance risk and things like that. So an area like this would likely be considered a floodplain and would either be built up as a levee or built up into something non-residential, non-commercial, you know, like an industrial yard, something like that. So we're just going to extend to right here, to this little bluff, and we'll worry about the lowland beyond it at a later date. So right now, as I'm planning out these streets, I'm thinking about where am I going to be putting the town center, So I've just realized I'm using 3-lane roads. But I'm thinking about where I'm going to be planning out the town center, specifically the courthouse, and what that means for the outlook. I've introduced some slight variation in the block sizes, just to provide for some varying uses. As we get further out from the center, the blocks get a little bit bigger. So I think we're just going to continue building these fairly tight here for the time being, and kind of just see where the road takes us. So we've reached our other main thoroughfare here. Let's make sure we get everything exactly straight. Here we go. And so we've got a little bit of a gap here between these tight blocks and this one. I'm not sure if this would be the spot I really want the courthouse to be sitting. I think so, especially considering this is going to get downgraded to a 2-lane here in a moment. I think this would be a fine spot. So how wide is this? 13 units. So let's go. That's 13, 14, 15. Put it right about here. And so this block should be just large enough for a kind of courthouse, kind of historical looking building, something that would be a real center and staple of this community throughout history. So if you look at towns like Shreveport, towns like Opelousas, towns like Natchitoches, many of these towns have a kind of central civic center or courthouse at their core, and that's what we're going to be emulating here today. So we're going to stretch this grid out to its conclusion. We're going to grid out most of this parcel today and kind of create a bit of a starter town. It's going to be iterated on a little bit, but for the most part this is going to remain a relatively low density area. It's meant to kind of represent a historical kind of, not colonial, but you know, settlement period era Louisiana settlement, something like Natchitoches, a historical town in the north of the state, rather than something like New Orleans or Baton Rouge. That will all come later. So this road here kind of follows the waterway of this lake here. I figure maybe we can put a quay up here, or maybe some kind of waterfront, depending on how this area develops in the future. But road frontage on the waterfront is something that you commonly see in Louisiana because it's an easy way for the infrastructure to be built that allows for the flooding to be prevented. And ultimately, I am seeking more of a realistic Louisiana city than any kind of idealistic urban landscape. So there's going to be some pretty ugly stuff in the city ahead of you. Just a heads up. I think this looks pretty good at the moment. We're going to expand this just a little bit more before we start building. Alright, well that took a little bit longer than I originally wanted it to, but I'm happy with the results. I think we've got a pretty solid looking grid to begin our town here, something that is efficient, American, and at the same time I think still shows a little bit of character. We're going to try and shape ourselves around the water as much as we can, especially as we continue to expand off this original grid. But true to the development of the real Louisiana towns, most of them did start as a tight, packed grid like this, following the orientation of the local waterway. So we're going to begin with a kind of civic center here at the intersection of these two large roads, with a courthouse, some park space, and some of our city services. We're going to expand kind of radiantly outwards from that into a bit of a commercial and workplace zone before we fill out most of the rest of this original grid with just housing for now. And like I said, we are going to iterate on this area a few times, so what you're seeing built now may not be what is eventually there. We're trying to just get the city up and running at this moment, trying to play within the confines of the game to unlock and create a functioning city, as well as one that looks good too. So we're going to begin with setting up our utilities and some of our basic services, and then we're going to just zone out a good bit of this. So I'm beginning with the regular transformer station here, and we're going to put it right off the highway. You know, maybe not the best location for it, but this is something that you'll see pretty frequently on these kind of auxiliary kind of arterial roads. In small Louisiana communities is power infrastructure right off the main road. So we'll put that there for now. Obviously this will probably eventually move, but for now that's good enough. We're hooked up to the power grid, and we're not going to put a power plant in quite yet, but that's going to be pretty early on, as you get to a point pretty quickly in this game where the importation, or the import I guess, of power becomes very economically unstable. So that's very short term. Next we're going to do our water, and I do believe we have some groundwater in this area. Yes we do. So we're just going to harvest up some of this. I believe we can put it right here on the edge of Common Street. And I did spend a little bit of extra time to rename all of these streets from their default names. I know the naming system for the roads in this game isn't great, but you know, I like to leave these little stubs here. It's good practice, and once you get in the habit of it, not that hard to do. Helps you remember where the road will eventually go later on, and it helps to maintain the names, as without this little stub, Water Street and Mill Street would, I believe, have the same name. So, you know, I won't show too much of that, but just know that in between everything I will be going around and naming streets as necessary, just to add a little bit of character. So most of these are named in kind of a traditional American civic kind of nature. Many of the towns in Louisiana have street names in their urban cores that are named after Confederate generals, and frankly I don't vibe or gel with that, so I'm not going to be naming my streets after people like that, so we're just going to be doing some basic kind of classic American street names instead. I'm going to go ahead and unpause the game, get everything ticking a little bit, and get our demand ticking upwards. In the meantime, we do need a sewer outlet for the area. We don't have many great places to put this. I'd prefer not to pollute this beautiful lake here, but it looks like we're going to have a little bit of a polluted area just for now, which is fine. Very Louisiana thing to do, I suppose. And we'll just hook this bad boy up to the street. Alright, and so now we're just about to unlock our first milestone once we get our first buildings in, I believe. So we're just gonna start nice and easy and zone out a couple blocks of houses. So I am using a zoning mod by the creator Seraphin. Huge shout out to that creator. This mod is fantastic. They've reorganized some of the houses in the base game, as well as I believe added a few of their own into these kinds of different categories. So you've got just kind of classic traditional houses, you've got basic houses. This is going to be trailer parks, prefabricated homes, manufactured homes, things like that. And then the triple dollar sign is the modern housing. This is going to be the modern style houses. This is going to be the larger looking ones, you know, some of the fancier assets from the vanilla game. So we'll be using these off and on in tandem with the normal zoning. So huge shout out to Seraphin. I highly recommend this mod. It's really great. As someone who doesn't like to plop every single building in my city, having something like this is really useful. I like to plop specifically things in commercial industrial areas, civic centers, things that kind of get a lot of attention, and more multifamily residential. I like to plop that too, but these single family homes, plopping each one can get very old very quickly. So we're going to begin with platting out a couple blocks of single family houses using just these classic North American houses from Seraphin. We're going to do these couple blocks here just to start. Got relatively flat land here, and are these actually going to be filling out? They do leave a little bit of space in the center of the block, but I'm not super worried about that right now. As we get closer into the city center, we'll think a little more specifically about our platting. I have seen the platter mod. I'm not currently playing with it active. I've been thinking about adding that to the playset though, so if it's something that you think would actually be useful, feel free to let me know. I haven't played with it myself, but I always hear good things. So we've also got some commercial demand now. I think we're going to begin with some southwestern style low density businesses. These are kind of some automotive oriented kinds of businesses that you'd expect to see in a kind of small community like this, I think. Get a couple of these going. So just be some supermarkets, some fast food restaurants, the likes, things like that. And then maybe right behind it here we can get a couple more stores, maybe just some regular North American commercial businesses. Maybe something like that. And I believe these waterfront businesses do have corner pieces, but they are also wall to wall, so we're not going to use that here. We're going to use, let's put in a southwestern one just for some variety. Let all this build out, see how it looks, and just kind of play with it from there. And zone out a little bit more commercial. As we get closer into the town here, I'd like to begin using some of these wall to wall buildings if I can. Maybe a mixture of the waterfront and the northeastern. I do know we are right here on the lake, so it'd be good to get some waterfront stuff. I guess this side is the bay actually, but you catch my meaning. So we'll go ahead and just fill this out for now. We'll take it nice and slow and be a little bit purposeful in how we zone and how we build. So these are some of the Seraphin zoning classic houses. Really, really beautiful stuff. I think these really fit the North American kind of look, especially these. These look like just about every house you see in Louisiana. These kind of low, one-story, tall roof ranch style houses. They're everywhere in the South, literally everywhere. So I'm really, really happy. Not just for that asset, but also because we finally reached milestone 1 tiny village. So we've unlocked some special buildings, including this one. This is a unique building I downloaded off of Paradox Mods. It's a fish and chip shop. I believe it's based off an Australian location. However, it seemed to me to be pretty fitting for a Louisiana kind of build. So we're actually going to go ahead and probably put that one in. We've also got a few more, and we've unlocked a lot of medium density Old Town housing. Old Town is going to be a big one. We've unlocked farming. We've unlocked some roads, including our special road builder 2-lane road that we're going to be using. And we'll go ahead and get healthcare and death care put together as well. So let's pause this. At least let's bring the speed down a bit. And the first thing that I'd like to do is find my fish and chip shop, and let's find a good spot for it. Is it readily going to fit against any of these? Let's see. Rather than put it there, I think I'm actually going to put it let's say right here. And then we'll fill this block out as we go with some more wall-to-wall and have kind of a beginning of an urban kind of environment here. So I envision kind of wall-to-wall commercial all along Canebrake Road here. You know, some further commercial uses on the block behind it, some civic uses as well before we kind of break into the residential section of the city that will lie behind Canebrake Road. And we're going to work towards this area where we're going to build a beautiful civic center. So I do have these Old Town housing style apartment buildings. These are interesting because the Old Town assets introduced to the game recently are all mixed use, and that's fantastic. However, these are just variations of them with the commercial zoning removed and all the commercial propping removed, so they're the same buildings, just without the commercial component. So we're going to have a couple of these right here to kind of introduce us to the urban core as you drive along Canebrake Road. You know you're getting into the town as these buildings kind of break into a more historic looking view. Up here along Water Street, we're going to make use of some of these North American waterfront houses. I think these will look good right here. And we'll do a little bit of spacing between our parcels so that people aren't getting right in each other's face. And maybe we'll put a unique single-family home right here, and maybe like an elementary school or something, who knows. We are going to go over here. I actually forgot. Let's take our development point, unlock advanced road services. That's always going to be my first unlock. Go into our road services, and let's fix the zoning here a little bit. Get a couple more houses in right here. Couple waterfront properties for everybody, and then we'll fill in a little bit more of this neighborhood. And you know, I've just noticed, I actually thought that this street would have been continuous, but it does not appear to be. And I'm not so sure I like the name Green Street. Oak Street. There you go. We do have some demand for some medium density residential here. We do have some suburban style medium density housing as well. This is another pickup off of Paradox Mods. Can't recall the creator name, but of course everything I'm using will be linked in the description, so feel free to check this out if you like these assets as well. I'm a big fan of them. I think they're beautiful. I'm gonna just zone this whole... Yeah, there we go. Not quite sure of the sizes of them yet, so kind of just playing by ear here. We're gonna zone one big one in right there, leave a little bit of space for them, and these commercial buildings I think have turned out looking pretty good. Got a pharmacy, vehicles place, another pharmacy, and clothing store. And perfect, the grocery store asset actually became a grocery store. I do get a little frustrated when these are selling like plastics or petrochemicals. These look like they should be a supermarket. And that's exactly what it is, so. Of course, we do have a furniture store with a drive-thru, but also, I'm not quite sure what to do about these floating signs. If anyone's got a fix for this, a mod for it, let me know. Very happy to install something to fix these, because I am not the guy that's going to be going and deleting the props off of every single one of these I place. We do have some fertile land here as well. We're going to get a small farming operation going here on the edge of town. Just to make sure that we've got some jobs and a thriving, growing economy. So we're just going to follow along Canebrake Road here. And in the story of this town, I do imagine that this would be kind of a bit of a legacy property owned by a more powerful family in the community. Something that's been, you know, a plantation since the antebellum period. You know, something that is possessed and operated by very old money. You know, it's a bit of an ugly truth of Louisiana, but it is a state that is very heavily influenced by these old money types. So that's something that we're going to represent through this farm and through the small homestead that we're going to place here. Odds are this farm is not going to be going anywhere for quite a while. So there we go, left a little bit of space for a homestead here. Nice vegetable farm laid out. And I'm actually going to go into the plopping menu and we're going to find a good house that we can plant here. I don't like to do a lot of plopping of residential stuff, like I said. I like to save it for more special areas, but in my opinion, this is going to become a bit of a special area, so we'll do level 5. And we'll do width 5. I think that looks pretty good. We'll go in here. And we'll place ourselves a couple of oaks. Might have to use Anarchy to get these guys to fit, but big lines of oaks are something that you do see pretty frequently in these kinds of Louisiana plantation farmhouses. And realistically, this house would probably be set back from the road, you know, a couple 100 feet with its own private driveway and whatnot. But this one's a little more urban than most, so we're not going to worry too much about that right now. We'll make some more rural ones at a future time. So I've plopped these northeastern American row houses. Not super happy with how they look. I was wanting to go for a bit of a shotgun house style situation on the rear end of this block behind all this commercial stuff, but I don't have great assets for that at the moment. But you know what? It looks fine. We're going to leave it for now. They look quite colorful. No unlocks for parking quite yet, but we'll leave some space for that for future use. We're just going to keep filling on in. Do some more waterfront. And mayhaps we can do a bit of an alley right here. Go in and make sure that this isn't disrupting our main thoroughfare too much. As a matter of fact, we could probably do with getting rid of some of these stoplights, but don't worry about all that here in a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and go over here. We're gonna unlock our suburban wide 2-lane road. We're gonna upgrade this thoroughfare here to it, Island Street. And eventually, like I said, this will be a more major road than it currently is, but we wanna reserve that thoroughfare and make sure that we're not building on it. Next thing we're going to worry about is a clinic. We're just going to go for a small clinic at the moment. I think should do us just fine. And we'll plant this right here, kind of towards the middle of the town. Alternatively, I actually think I might like it a bit more perhaps right there, and then we can go in with our surfaces and add ourselves a little connection to the alley so that the ambulances have multiple methods in and out. Take our invisible road path and ensure it's properly connected up to the alley. So that should give us a clinic with 2 methods of egress for emergency services. And as a reward for providing that second egress, we of course unlock the energy drink bottling plant. This is actually an asset I quite like. It's a really good looking asset. I believe it's free to place, and it can really help jumpstart the industry of your beginner city. But before we place that, we need the secondary part of healthcare, which is death care, for when healthcare goes wrong. So let's see here. We do have the UK Parish Church. A lot of people don't like this asset. I'm a big fan of it. I think that this is the best solution for death care in a small town. It's one of the only vanilla religious looking assets in the game. And if you don't upgrade it, the upkeep isn't bad. The upgrades on this are ridiculous. But as long as you don't upgrade it, it's not too bad. We do also have this small cemetery though. And I think that this one actually looks a good bit more like the kind of cemetery you'd find across most of Louisiana. Because it appears that there's some mausoleums and maybe even some above ground graves. Can't quite tell. Actually, I can definitely see a few there near the mausoleum. But that's something that you do see relatively commonly in Louisiana. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Find a good spot for it, probably towards the center of town. As historically, people would want to be able to get to this place relatively easily. I know we haven't quite built this area out yet, but envisioning what I see for this area in the future. You know what? It's a little more out of the beaten path than I would have liked, but I think this block looks quite good. Let's try putting it here on the corner of Island and DeSoto. I'm gonna need to play with those surfaces just a little bit. I think that looks fine, and we'll hide the remaining imperfection with landscaping, of course. We're going to go for the oak trees again. You're going to see me use these a good bit, and that's because if you spent any time in Louisiana, you know these things are absolutely everywhere. I've got more than I could count within viewing distance of the window outside my home. So we're going to be going all in on the oaks this series. Alrighty, and we're actually going to come in here with better bulldozer, and we're going to bulldoze that tree, which luckily is a separate element from the remaining trees. That's what I was worried about. And the oak does look a little big. So I've ended up going with a couple of crepe myrtles. I think that these look great, and I think they're fitting for the setting as well. So we're going to rename our cemetery. And if you have a better name suggestion than Canebrake Historical Cemetery, please feel free to let me know. I'm always looking for new names for roads, locations, anything else. If you have any recommendations in that vein or any other vein, please don't hesitate to let me know. We're going to continue just filling out a lot of these kind of middle blocks with single-family housing. Like I said, we're going to iterate on this later on, so I'm not super worried about what these original houses look too much like. However, with Seraphin's mod, I have to say they do look quite good. This looks, in my opinion, much better than the vanilla game assets. And dare I say, I think we're looking pretty nice right now. We do have these two alley buildings popping up, which wasn't my intention, and I don't necessarily mind. Actually, which, since sells beverages, this one is a fine dining establishment. I don't think a fine dining establishment would be in a back alley like this. So let's get rid of the fine diner. This guy can stay. I like the look of this. And maybe we can put something else here in this little spot, but we've got some more space to fill out commercially. And night is falling on our growing little community. Feeling pretty good about it. I think we're going to go ahead and finish kind of filling out most of this little grid. We're going to detail a little kind of city or town center area, and then I think we might call it there for the day. I know we haven't done anything too special quite yet or anything too Louisianian, but at the end of the day, I do like to play this game in a manner in which I create a functioning town that operates within the rules of the game, and our goal right now is going to be to create something that, number one, functions, number two, is profitable, and number three, after that, we're going to begin going deep into the detailing and roleplay of the Louisiana build. One thing that Louisiana always needs is a Whataburger. Where I live in Louisiana, these are exceptionally common. My first job was actually at a Whataburger, fun fact. So I think we'll plant this right off the highway, because they also love to build these things where they cause the most traffic, and it looks like we actually unlocked our next milestone off of that. But now, when people enter into the town, the first thing that they'll see is Whataburger. It is always there for you, always open. I have to say, I'm also quite a fan of these suburban North American apartment buildings that I got off of the PDX workshop. I think they look really fantastic, especially for a smaller community like this. I want to say that this is actually one of the hotel props that have been remodeled into a residential building, so I just want to say, really good on you. That's really smart thinking. Additionally, I wanted to show this off. I've got a texture replacer through the Write Everything mod for my waste and postal management. Waste cars will have WM logos on them. Postal cars will have USPS logos on them. So just another little detail that really makes me happy in my towns. In the meantime, though, let's go ahead and get an elementary school in so we can get some people educated. You do see these kinds of elementary schools pretty frequently in Louisiana, and I think in this context this is going to be what we go for, because this is going to be a more historic kind of area, more of an old town kind of situation, and this is the kind of elementary school that would have been being built, you know, earlier in the 20th century or perhaps even the 19th century. And frankly, I do really wish that this was one tile more symmetric than it is. I might actually adjust Union Street just a little bit just to make this work a little better. Is it worth it? You know what, let's try it, and if it doesn't work, we can always redo it later. That's the wonder about this game. So we'll go one tile up, and frankly that would be better for the pedestrian safety of the kids getting to school in the mornings anyways, because it would put drivers on Union Street off kilter and make them pay more attention and slow down. Oh, with that we've unlocked a sports bar. We're not going to be placing this quite yet, or really probably anytime soon. Another good one to have. Got our school set up here on DeSoto Street, and I think we're gonna go one more block with this. Maybe I'll just do the whole of Union Street down like so. See how that looks. Make it one wider. I think that's fine. A little bit of imperfection in the grid is not just normal, but adds character. So we've got our elementary school with space for parking and perhaps a small park, which we don't have unlocked quite yet, but we'll leave all of that for later. The important thing is we now have an elementary school for our little Louisianian kids to get an education. And let's say in the story that this school opened up in the 1920s or 30s when Huey Long was the end-all be-all of Louisiana politicians. So there's the story there. I think it fits the architectural style and the era that I'm going for this part of the town. I'd like to add some more housing surrounding the school. I'm going to leave a little bit of a break from Island Road. I'm not quite sure how I want to develop that quite yet. We'll have some houses in the surrounding blocks like so. I think we'll leave a little bit of space on some of these blocks for a little bit more of an urban situation as we get a little bit closer into where the town center is going to be. Matter of fact, I think we're going to dezone this. And then up here, I'm thinking I want to do some apartments in these kind of smaller blocks. I think that might look kind of nice and provide some extra density around the education center. So we're going to try for a couple of these suburban apartment buildings. We'll just plop a couple of these down and see how they look. We'll do that on this block, and then I think on this next block we'll do row houses. And I'm not going to keep all of these, I just kind of want to get an idea and an eye for kind of what they look like and which ones I want to use. So what I did here was I added a node on this unit. I upgraded this bit to a regular alley, and then I delete this unit. Restricts the parking lot back in behind these buildings, which is what I wanted. And now I think I might look for some good corner pieces, see if there's anything that fits well. Alright, so I've built this bit of a mixed-use corner here near the elementary school. We've got our row house style apartments with parking through the back. On the edges here I've got some mixed-use Old Town assets that I've repainted and recolored to fit a little better. I'm trying to get the roof right. I can't seem to get it to emulate the green super well unless I make it a color like this, I imagine. Yeah, I think we'll do that. So we'll copy that onto you and you and you. And we'll make sure these are all locked in place. I know there's a setting I can turn on to do this automatically. I just forgot to turn it on before recording. Make sure it's on next time. So I look over here though, and yeah. So a couple thoughts. These buildings aren't bad. They're just not, I guess, what I want here in particular. So we're gonna go back to the drawing board on these. I do notice we are starting to dwindle our money a little bit too. So we're gonna go ahead and round this out pretty quickly. Try to get profitable. So we've done the same thing on the State Street side. So now we've got a nice little community with shops and apartments right here next to the elementary school. Hopefully provides a good place to live for some families. And these kinds of courtyard apartments are, you know, the kinds of communities that I think really make a city. So I've been thinking a good bit about what I'd like to use for the city hall government courthouse kind of building. As there's always a really fancy looking courthouse at the center of all these towns, so I like this emerald building, although it is pretty large and majestic. I think what I'd like to do is actually find a unique custom asset to put here for our civic center, because frankly nothing's really speaking to me. Alright, and we've achieved the third milestone, large village. Gives us some more rewards, including another unique asset, a local bank branch, as well as the Riverside Grill. We also are going to get ore mining, fire and rescue, police, as well as this custom North American church that I've unlocked as well. And I think that's going to be the final thing we do today, as police, fire, and religious affiliation are going to be the three things that once we get them installed, I think we're going to have a true, complete southern community here. So to begin, we're just going to do a small fire station to begin with. I am a really big fan of this Eastern European firehouse here. I actually think it's very reminiscent of the kinds of old-style southern buildings that you see in these old-timey towns. I think if this was, you know, a little bit bigger than it was, I think it would be a shoe-in for this courthouse building as well, but we will just be using it as a fire station. And in that regard, I'm thinking that the block adjacent to the courthouse here is going to be a bit of a public utilities campus. And we're going to put this fire station right here in the center where it belongs, as it is a beautiful looking asset. I love this asset so much. Gotta just get a good look. I think this is going to be a really good staple for the community, and a really good historic building to look at as you enter into this district of Canebrake. So we'll rename this the Canebrake Historic Firehouse. Next, we'll do our police station. I think the UK Suburban Police Station does look pretty good. However, I do also think the Northeastern American Police Station's quite fitting as well. The small police station could also do us some good for now as just a temporary measure, but we're also going to need to get our church in place. So we'll place our police station down on this side of our public utilities campus. And actually it looks like it fits quite well here. I think this would be a good use for it, right up against these homes. And yeah, I think that fits the suburban environment here quite well. Right here on the corner of Albany Street and you're not Hillside Street. What are you? I believe you are meant to be Union. Finally, all we've got left to do is our church that we have to place. This is a pretty small church. I'm thinking we're going to put this a little bit out of the way. A nice little picturesque environment for people to come. And I think we're going to do a little bit of terraforming here because they would definitely want to build this place on a bit of a hill. It's pushing the water back a little bit, so yeah, I think we'll have a little bit of a bluff here. We'll go up to 22 for a moment. And soften our edge. Come in here with our church prop. Do a little more softening back here, make it look okay. Alright, and so I'm thinking we're going to just use a gravel road here. Make it nice and curvy. Avoid our swampy water. While we're at it, we are going to come back in here with a key along Water Street just to make sure we don't have any unnecessary flooding before I get this terraform to my liking. So we've got our church here. We'll rename this Many times in the South you'll see churches with these roads named after them, although it doesn't really matter if it's not even going to show up, I suppose. But this definitely appears to me to be some kind of a Baptist or at least Protestant church, so that's what we're going to go with. And then later on we'll add some more assets for some of the other religious affiliations that you see around Louisiana. You know what, we'll make it Canebrake First Baptist. Go in, grab ourselves parking areas, come in here, find ourselves a good lot. I think this gravel lot's pretty good. I am going to remove the surface because I think it's ugly. And it looks like it wants me to expand the gravel road just a touch, which I'm happy to do. So I've created a little bit of a gravel parking lot here. I got rid of the original surface and just kind of spammed on these golden sands that I got off the Paradox Mods workshop. I think these look fantastic. So we're going to add a little bit more landscaping around here, but otherwise I think we're just about done with our Baptist church. Alright, after a little bit of landscaping and detailing, I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. We've got this beautiful kind of lakeside church for people to enjoy. Quite enjoy doing special little builds like this, things that are special to the community so they deserve a little bit more attention than just your typical area. But I imagine that this will be a focal point for the community and a place where people can come and meet and hang out for a very long time. And with that, I think we are nearing the end of the first session. I am hemorrhaging funds, as expected. I'm going to slow down that time. And let's review what we got. We've got a functioning, if not unprofitable city. We've got about 1,000 residents. Growing commercial core along Canebrake Road. We've got a large neighborhood forming right behind that with a beautiful courtyard apartment complex right here with a couple of shops involved as well. Quite proud of this. I like making little apartment things like this. In addition to this beautiful Baptist church. And so I'd like to just kind of, take a moment to set the expectations here of, I plan on iterating this a good bit. I consider myself more of a detail-oriented player. I like to plop a lot of things. I like to create special places that have meaning, and I also like to name all my roads. So I'll be naming all the roads. I'll be creating places like this, and we'll be expanding this from what is, right now, let's face it, a pretty basic Cities Skylines II town. We're going to expand this to make it something that is properly Louisiana, something that is properly representative of the state. We're going to have a French Quarter type area. We're going to have some elevated swamp expressways going all across these waterways, just massive tall bridges going every which way. We're going to completely dice up this environment. We're going to make huge oil refineries. We're going to pollute the world in the name of profit. It's going to be a great time. So this is just the documentation for me to go along with the build. So if you'd like to follow along, I've got my mod list in the comments. And again, the map is Piscataqua Bay. Again, sorry for the pronunciation there. By Nitraus. It's a really great map. It's only got about 1,000 downloads. I think this map is absolutely beautiful. If you're looking for a kind of marshy map that has minimal terrain variation but still has a few hills here and there, I think this is just about perfect. And I'm really excited to see how the waterways here affect development going forward. I already have a lot of ideas. I'm thinking Island Road here is gonna kind of change directions to follow in between these two waterways up towards about where that train is right now. And I think we're gonna have a big piece of infrastructure up here, some kind of multimodal highway connecting all of our communities, as I expect to see a larger kind of city center area here. I'd like to put my port maybe down here or over here, not quite sure which one yet. and I'd like to kind of have an homage to some different places within Louisiana across the map. So we're going to be building a few different towns based on a few different places. Today's town, like I said, pretty basic, but we were going for the tightly platted first settlements of Louisiana, basing it off of places like Natchitoches, Opelousas, places like that. But from here on out, we're going to be replacing a lot of these single-family homes with something a little more substantive, something a little more unique. We're going to be filling out the remainder of this grid. We're going to expand this grid outward, and we're going to be creating next time. Oh my goodness, what was the lighting doing? Next time, we're going to be creating some levee systems around our community, as well as some further industrial infrastructure. So I hope you join me then, and I hope you've enjoyed Canebrake. I'll see you next time.